the veil. We don't need no cult religion. We don't need chats that control. No dark ratings are upon us. Chad, Lori, leave. Good morning, beautiful people. Today we're going to be talking about an interview that I just saw. And thank you, Kat, who sent me some information about the interview. And we're going to talk about what has gone on since Saturday. Saturday, I did call the Gilbert, Arizona Police Department, and they had asked me to call back. This is kind of my little update. I called them back on Monday as they asked, and I haven't received any calls back as yet. So if I don't receive a call back from the Gilbert, Arizona police by the end of today, I'm going to be calling the Gilbert, Arizona mayor, which is a woman. And I'm going to be talking about trying to honor Charles Vallows on July 11th on this upcoming Saturday. It's very important that I think that the officials get involved with, as you guys say, dropping the ball, but they dropped the ball, but also they covered up things as well. So they need to do some mighty fine, redeeming themselves. So I just wanted to give you that update. I'm not sure if you can see, I just got the word fear up there because that's what we're going to be talking about today. I made my thumbnail a picture of Lori and Chad, and we're going to be talking about the equilibrium. Is it equal? Is their relationship equal? Or is one of them the victim of the other? Now, we're going to be talking about that, and we're going to be talking about using fear. And how long does it really take to instill fear into people before they respond? I guess if you think of it this way, our government has many conduits to instill fear into us. They could, as they call it today, they could make it fake news up and tell us that the world's ending July 22nd. Just to use the same narrative as Chad and Lori's and the Melanies and everybody else. So with that said, I'm wondering, how long does it really take you to believe? This is just a funny question that I have in my mind. If someone told you that whoops, sorry, I got the other device on the phone. If the world was ending, would you believe them? Would you believe that the world was ending July 22nd? And what would it take for you to believe that? Especially if they said to you, let's say the government, let's say it wasn't preparing a people, or the Chad Daybell splinter group, the cult, telling you that the world was ending and only 144,000, including Chad and Lori and all of their other splinter group members, were going to survive it, but the rest of us were going to be dead. How much would it take you to believe in that? And not just how much, but how much time would it take you to believe such a disastrous outcome for the world? Now, we're not talking that Russia or China or North Korea, any of those countries are going to throw these mega bombs on us and we're going to be gone. That's not what the fake news is. The fake news is the Almighty Jesus, the one that most people trust and love, the one that most people put in all of their faith into, is going to come on July 22nd and get rid of us. He's going to somehow be involved with getting rid of part of the world at the second coming of Jesus. And only these 144,000 are going to be left. So really, would it take you a month to believe that? Would it take you 2 months? Would it take you 6 months? Would it take you a year? How long do you think that kind of crazy information that these splinter group, the splinter cult from the LDS in preparing of people, how long do you think it would take for them to fall victim of that doctrine? How long in their hearts that they would think that if they don't scramble fast, if they don't do everything in the world to adhere to this doctrine of, let's call it Chads and Lorries, how long would it take you? A year to believe? Or most people, would it take, they would never believe you? Not because they were religious, because they're practical. Let's say that the religious people aren't even listening. They got their ears closed because they got their own doctrine, and their doctrine doesn't match this doctrine. So let's just talk about the people that are not religious, don't care what anyone says about the second coming. Do you think that at any given time, that part of our world population would believe that the world was coming to an end because of the second coming of Jesus Christ? My idea would be, I hardly doubt it. I hardly doubt it that there would be a population of people that are non-religious that fall into the belief, whether it's a year before the destruction of the earth, supposedly, or 2 months before, or 6 months. I don't think anyone that's non-religious would ever put that much stock into what people were saying about Jesus Christ. Now we're going to talk about the people who are religious, who are to believe in some of these doctrines, not specifically the Chad Daybell doctrines, not specifically the preparing for people doctrines, more specifically about their religion. So let's use the LDS, because most of these preparing of people are from the LDS faith. Most of them, not all of them, but the bulk of them, from what I understand, are LDS followers, LDS members, people that believe in the LDS faith. But I have heard over and over again, and I'm not sure if it's true, that the LDS do not put a stamp of approval on any of this hogwash from Chad Daybell, Lori Daybell, or any of the other people. Even what Melanie Gibb has said, and even what how Melanie Gibb has acted, doesn't portray the LDS religion by any means. So I am going to ask you if you believe that it would just take a short time for the LDS people to follow upon Chad's beliefs, or would you think that He would have to work them hard. Do you think he would have to lobby the heck out of them to get them to stop believing that the world is going to end because of the second coming of Jesus Christ? So with that said, we're going to skip right to the heart of this discussion and where it all starts. But before I say that, I'm going to mention that some people want to have a Charles Vallows law, that they're looking into ways to get rights for men further known, further put into the public, and more training for the police departments and alike. Not only the police departments, but for the social services that do come upon men with domestic violence situations that are very ripe for harm. We're not just talking, oh, they're not getting along. The sequence in the stories keep going towards extreme harm. We're not saying, oh, my wife doesn't answer my phone once in a while and she gives me dirty looks. We're not saying she ignores me at night after the dinner time. That can be considered emotional abuse. We are saying the extreme abuse when a wife or significant other says that they might kill you. So we are in the forefront right now, using Charles' story, trying to find ways so the next Charles Vallows, can get the help he needed to get help. As a lot of you have said to me, and as a lot of you have indicated from all, that you are very seriously angry with the way that he was treated. Don't lose that anger. I say don't lose it. Don't forget where Charles was. Because if you forget that anger, if you put that anger aside, then nothing will get done. It is only when individuals feel that in the gut of their souls that things get changed. So I am saying, never forget how angry you were on how Charles was treated in the entire system. Never forget how angry you are that he got ambushed and killed in cold blood. So with that said, we're going to move on to exactly what this is about. Now, here's the guts of this particular video. This video is saying, and as usual, I can't see if there's people on chat. I don't know why I can never see it, but yeah, if you're there, hello, everybody, welcome. Now we're going to talk about Taylor Lawson. Who is Taylor Lawson? A very important player. Not only is he a very important player with this case, he is a very important person that had tried to help Charles Vallows. He was Charles Vallows' personal attorney, and he has disclosed that Charles was very fearful of his life. And when we say very fearful, is he was doing everything that his attorney and that Charles and anyone else connected with them could think of to protect himself. That is why they think that the essence of what the personal attorney, Taylor Lawson, thinks is somehow lured Charles into that home on July 11th, 2019. Somehow she planned, as you well all know, it's my opinion, she planned that with Alex, of course, with her sister Summer, of course, possibly with Janis. most likely with Melanie Boudreaux at the time. Remind you, Melanie and Brandon Boudreaux were still married. This was July. So somehow this attorney was amazed that Charles had gone into that house. What led him to go into that house? Did he not see Alex's truck? Was Alex's truck in that driveway? That's the first thing I thought of when the attorney said that. When Attorney Lawson said, what lured him? Did Lori lure him into that house? My very first thought was, did they hide Alex's truck before the murder? Because I think Charles was very much aware of how dangerous the combination of that Cox family could be. Now, you can throw them, as far as I'm concerned, we're talking specifically Alex and Lori at this given moment at the house in Gilbert, Arizona, where he got shot to death. But as far as I'm concerned, the total picture, you can throw all of them in there, excluding possibly Adam, and especially excluding Zach Cox, who I've done a video on or two. Them we're going to exclude. But for the purposes of who could have been involved with setting Charles up for this murder, you can add any of them. But in this case, it was just Alex. Did he hide his truck at the Gilbert, Arizona house? So when Charles got there, he would have thought it was just the two girls, Lori and Tylee, and of course, JJ, who he was there to pick up. So I'm just making a side note on that. This isn't anything I've heard. I'm just saying, what got him? Because that's what the attorney says. Did Lori Vallows lure him? Because as you can see, he doesn't get past much of, he's right in past the entryway. He's not in the guts of the house. He's just a little past the entryway, which I would call a great room. So there was the entryway. It looked like he turned to the right into this kind of grand room that was empty. And that's where he got nailed. That's where Alex put the shots into him. My opinion, cold-bloodedly put those shots in him. My opinion, as the Kay Woodcocks and Larry Woodcocks and everybody that knew Charles knows, it was an ambush. It probably thinks that they set him up somehow to walk into that entryway, because I don't think they would have been that brave, have that much bravado to do it on the street, because they wouldn't have known who have cams or not. So they needed to do it inside. So how, the first question is, how did they lure? You can't believe a word they say, that Lori had stole the phone and that he was coming after it to retrieve it. That could be true. She could have reached into his rental car, grabbed his phone, and ran into the house, and Alex was sitting there all prepared to shoot him dead. Now, he didn't shoot him once. He didn't shoot him twice. I've heard up to 4 times. I've heard different amounts, but we know that he shot him more than once. Okay, the other thing is from Taylor Lawson, the attorney for, this is Charles's personal attorney. So the other thing that Taylor Lawson indicates is that no, never in a day did Charles Vallows have a mistress. And you know what this does to me? When I hear that they're still talking about a mistress today, that there's still a mistress that Lori had claimed in that police interview with Melanie Gibb and Tylee. She said she had found evidence, and she was, what do I always say about the Coxes? When they do something wrong, they twist it. They are worse than twisters. They twist the story. As one of my subs says, they make a negative narrative. It's the victim. The victim is Charles. Lori was the one that was having the affair. Lori was the one that was hiding all kinds of things. Lori goes to the police on that day, January 30th of 2019, and she alludes many times, and then sometimes factually says Charles is having an affair, and I caught him. Who was having that affair? Remember the mind twist that these people do. We've seen it by Janis. We've seen it by Summer, especially. And we can't describe how much we've seen it from Melani Pawlowski and Ian, because I am starting to have no feelings of regard for Ian, because I think that they are lying about when they met, how they met, and what actually got them together. I believe from the evidence I have heard that Ian is thick and thin with this cult, has always been. So I do not believe that it was just meeting and passing and falling passionately in love. And then they decided to marry in less than 10 days. I think this was a chosen marriage, just like the marriage between the killer, the assassin, Alex and Zulema. Isn't that funny? You get, again, contrary again, you get two people. You get Alex over here, the hitman, the assassin, the family taker outer. He'll take out anyone you need taken out for the family and the cult. And then you got Zulema trying to teach you how to have beautiful relationships. And she's married to an assassin, a killer, someone who spent time in jail for almost killing someone who kills for her aunt, for his sister, excuse me. And here is the fixer. What a paradox. What a paradox. You got the killer and the one that's going to meld your marriage together, meld your relationship together, meld your sense of responsibility to your relationship, to the actual relationship. What a paradox. This is what they're about. It is a paradox, but they make it that way. Don't think that this just happens. Don't think that these paradoxes are just meeting in the passing of the nights. These are methodically thought out, and these passings merge these people from the Chad and Lori mindsets. There is always a reason. This is always part of the overall destructive game that Lori and Chad have ignited. So just to recap that, the mistress theory is a bunch of baloney. Charles' lawyer says this. Charles was willing to take a polygraph in a split second to prove to Lori that it wasn't true. And if he failed the polygraph, he was also going to pay Lori money, which he knew was a sure bet that he wasn't going to have to pay her money, because he knew in his heart he would pass. And he knew, but what he didn't know, it was Lori having the affair. Was he getting suspicions? Of course he was. Was he watching that situation evolve between Chad and Lori? Of course he was. Was he highly on guard of what has happened to his wife in just a few months? How different her thinking was, even though he had said in one of those interviews with the police on the street, he said she's been going downhill for 4 to 5 years. She didn't know Chad 4 to 5 years. So this is why Chad isn't 100% culpable like the Charlie Manson gang. That cult was led by a leader, and they followed him and they killed for him, and they feared. He used the same old word, fear, to have those little teenage girls high on LSD and whatever else they did in those desert camps. He had them running on fear. If you put fear on someone, you change their response. Fear makes you act different. And that's what Lori and Chad did best, in my opinion. To their people, they made them, whether it was slightly introducing fear or immensely introducing fear, they slowly, methodically introduce thoughts of fear that if you don't go along with our doctrines, hey, you aren't going to be alive. Your children aren't going to be alive. Nobody's going to be alive. So, with that said, I can't put the blame on what has happened on just Chad. Chad isn't the full Charlie Manson. I think it's split right down the side. One side was one side of Manson. That would have been Chad. And the other side was Lori. When those two merged together, they made a complete Charlie Manson. Don't forget, Lori always had an ace in the hole. And you know what his name was. Alex Cox. Oh, but he changed that. When he got married to Zilema, he changed it to Alex Pastinis. Charles knew that. Charles knew 100% that Alex was Lori's avenging angel. There was no question. So now we're done with the talk about the attorney. Now I want to talk further about Rich Robertson. He was the man that was hired by Brandon Boudreaux. It was a paintball gun. So just with that said, you know a paintball gun doesn't smash out a driver's side window on a very fancy car that Brandon Boudreaux drove. And the only thing that people have speculated, and I'm not a gun person, so I'll leave it to the speculations, that it was a silencer on the paintball gun. And that's when when Alex allegedly fired at both Tammy and Brandon, that nobody heard anything in the neighborhoods because it resembled a paintball gun because of the silencer attachment that Alex had on it. And you know, Mr. Assassin Alex, he was an expert in fire. He was an expert in artillery. He was an expert in guns. We see that being said in a video with Adam Cox and him. Adam's his brother, and Adam was bragging about Alex's in-depth knowledge of artillery and his knowledge of the different, whether it was guns from the past or guns nowadays, that he had a historical perspective on guns as well as guns today. That video was the video of Alex and Adam in a fire shooting range, an enclosed one. They were inside on vacation, Adam had said, and they were shooting. So that's basically what the private detective, the Gumshoe, had credibility issues because of that shooting of BB. He said, Brandon Boudreaux, he said that why would they shoot BB, Brandon Boudreaux? What would be the profit for? The only profit in this, the only was a $1 million profit. There was no other reason to get rid of Brandon Boudreaux other than maybe wanting the children, but it seemed like she didn't want the children then. When that shooting of Brandon, she had moved to a different state. She was in process of moving. And she was visiting Lori in Rexburg. We heard she was visiting with Lori out in Hawaii in October. And she had claimed that 2 of her kids were zombies. So we can't put it that she had interest in her children. I think right now she has interest in her children because she wants to make it look like that. So it gets her out of the trouble she is in by being a cult member. Because you know damn well she is a cult member. Now, and by the way, if you're a cult member and you think that the end of the world is coming, wouldn't you want to do everything in your power to keep your children safe, not run away from them? So they're, again, a bunch of malacca as usual, just a bunch of malacca. It's all we can get. Now, Melani Gibb, Melani Pawlowski, yes, I think one has more culpability than the other, but they cannot deny that they are a part of that cult. Whether they called it preparing a people, whether they thought they were under Chad's, powers, or Lori's powers, or both, it's undeniable that both Melanie Gibb, in different ways, were part of a cult. And you can throw David Warwick in, that's my opinion, and you can throw Summer Shitlet in, and Janis Cox, them all. They're all part of a cult. They act it, they look it, and they misrepresent information the same way that the cult leader does to keep a hold of his victims. Now, Rick Ross is the founder of Cult Education Institute. He professes to be an expert on cults. He believes that Chad and Lori's cult was devised from that network of people from preparing the people. Those people, those doomsday people, they prepare for the apocalypse. They prepare for the end of the earth. So what a better audience Chad and Lori would have. And of course, Chad Daybell, has written on that BS. He's seen as a good speaker. He's had revelations, and I say throw those all in the river, throw them in the ocean. They mean nothing to me. Please, if any of his revelations you believe in, please stop believing in them. His near-death experiences and provided him to see beyond the veil. He's full of caca. He's like all fear cult leaders that only use fear by saying he knows better than you. He knows when the end of the earth is going to come. And when the end of the earth doesn't come, he's going to say, well, he got a new revelation. Well, I'm going to start a new idea that we need to revolt against all of that kind of thinking. No, these guys aren't prophets. They're imbeciles. And when you follow them, because they use fear tactics and they tell you, oh, follow me. And then when that day doesn't come, the expert, Rick Ross says, when that day doesn't come, then they say, oh, we prayed hard. We wanted to save you all. So now they've changed the date of when the world's going to end again. So now they get you for a longer period, because now they can say, see, I did such good. I did the good for you. I prayed and prayed, and God listened to me, and Jesus listened to me, and now we're not going to all die. So come on, guys, behave. Stick with me. If you stick with me, I'll keep changing these things so that you'll live through it and your children will live through it. So I'm saying to you, then what happened to Lori's children? If this is how these people use fear, what happened to Lori's children? I'm not going to repeat anything out of the Bible, but he talks about no human. This Rick Ross from the Cult Education Institute, no human will know when the end of the world will happen. It is in the Bible. Now, the difference with this Rick guy for me is he kind of sachets around the idea of why Lori would be involved with taking out her kids, taking out her husband, helping Chad and Melani Pawlowski and Alex Cox and Summer Shitlett and Janis Cox and whoever else might have been involved. It is my opinion that they were all involved to some degree. What is the degree? We'll probably never know. But this cult isn't to be taken lightly. They all have pieces of the big destruction puzzle, in my opinion. So with that said, what happened to Lori to take out her children? Did Lori think that she was saving her children? Is the question from the expert. Or did they think that the children were evil? That's for you guys to decide, because I'm not going to listen. I know I'm contrary to a lot of things, and this is one of the places I'm contrary. I'm not going to listen to an expert tell the world that he thinks she might have been brainwashed by Chad. And this is why. And you tell me if I'm wrong. She only knew him a few months, and she was already planning Charles's death. Now, if I met my new lover and knew him, let's say 3 months, 4 months at best, do you think that new lover would have the strength to tell me that I need to get rid of my spouse? That's why I question the expert saying that it could have been Chad completely telling Lori what to do. Because I do not believe in a second that Lori didn't have those kind of thoughts on her own. She tried to get rid of that guy, Joe Ryan, her ex, by using her hitman, her avenging angel, her assassin, Alex Cox. So don't you in a day, my belief is to be sucked into some cult expert alluding to the fact that Chad might have convinced Lori of these deeds, these dastardly deeds, because I don't believe it. I don't think he knew her long enough, and I don't think he was involved with any other things that she had done in her past that were considered evil and dastardly. So this expert, to me, from the Cult Institute, can have a lot of insight into what makes a cult. But does he know for sure to say he thinks that maybe Chad was the leader and she just dutifully followed him? I just don't think that in a 6-month period, Charles would be dead. How could you be that entranced with a person that you physically meet 6 months or so prior? I don't think so. I don't think in any way. I do believe that Janice, Summer, Melanie's, and all of them have had these ideas for a long, long time. And that the timing, the differences with them is they use timing. So they can wait on some a long time and they can wait on others very short time, proved in what they did to the children. Don't forget, you can see Summer and Zulema going to court with Melanie, like Melani Pawlowski, like supporting her. So don't for a second believe that they are cultified somehow, that they belong to this weird thinking. If Melanie thought her children would turn into zombies, she should not be a mother, in my opinion. And now the expert is saying because Lori has put in so much emotional equity into Chad, she will always stick by him now, even though he's the biggest jerk in the world. Even if she came to the idea that his part, his half of what happened to all of these people was wrong, she won't deviate from him. She's not going to deviate from him because that means she was wrong. And these kind of people have too much investments into their wrongs that they'll ever admit it. So with that said, guys, I'm hoping I got people here. And I hope I explain why today is talking about fear, because that's what these people have run by, is fear. Nothing more, nothing less. They get their members fearful. They think if they don't follow their ideas, their doctrines, that something might happen to them. Guys, I'm going to try. Hello, everyone. I know you've been listening to me ramble here for a while. I'm going to try to see if I can get you. You know, I have a device issue that I can't always see, what's it called, chats. Sometimes I can, sometimes I can't. So I'm going to try to get your chat. In the meantime, try to write me what you think of what I just said. If you disagree, if you agree, please like and subscribe. Please share out if this is any useful information. Most of what I talked about, I outlined from the Nancy Grace interview that one of my subscribers had sent me, and thank you for that. I'm so glad that he sent me the interviews with the attorney for Charles Vallows. That meant a lot, and having access to that information and having access to the information from the cult expert from the Cult Institute, which I never even knew there was such a thing, but of course there's got to be. I can't find where you're in chat. You know, as I said, I'm not nimble on this stuff, as you can see. And sometimes I just can't see it. So that says it for pretty much what I was going to say. If some of you would like, I can try to open up a new live. Oh, that isn't going to do me any good either if I can't get on this one. Sorry, guys, I can't figure out how to see chat. Take a break for a second while I try to figure this out. Okay, guys, I guess I'm going to go for now. Sorry about that. I can come, I'll read what you wrote and I'll come. Oh, it isn't going to work though. It's for some reason. Let me try on a different device. Hold on one second. It's awful to have a live like this and then I can't partake in what you guys were saying, what you liked or what you didn't like in all of this. I just don't want anyone to be fooled. The bottom line is, do we take an expert's general ideas and apply them to this case? I don't know if general ideas can be applied to this case. I can say that Lori does look like she's in a different planet. And so doesn't all of them. Not one of them looks like they are with us. I would have to pinch myself as if I was in front of any of them, because I would have to like say, are these people real? Am I really in life, or am I in a different dimension? Because they come off as non-humans. They come off as not one of us. And that's how cults operate, I guess. They make you feel different. And that superiority that I've always talked about with them, that they feel that they're superior. They really believe it in their hearts. They really believe that they're superior. They know the answers, and us fools out here don't know them. And that's what incensed me from day one. It really incensed me as an individual that they would have the gumption to assume that we are fools. Not only are fools because we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but we're fools because when we're not operating under their business plan. Well, I'm going to burn their business plan, because their business plan should not be looked at. Their business plan the book shouldn't be opened. The business plan should be outlawed. There should be ways to outlaw them. They outlawed the mafia, right? They made RICO. RICO is that law, and I can't remember what the acronym stands for, but something crime, organized crime, something RICO. I think that's the name of it. The government made a law so that we could outlaw the organization of criminal families, criminal organizations. Well, I'm purporting to you, why don't we outlaw cults? Why don't we have a law like RICO that outlaws the forming of this? Oh, because it's supposedly religion? Is that why? So we let religion, nasty religion, live on and screw up people's lives and kill people and do whatever they do to people. Okay, guys, I'm going to close for now. I might be back in a few minutes if I can. Thank you very, very much for being here. Like, subscribe. I'm awfully sorry. I've looked and looked, and I cannot find a way to get to you all. There's no way. As I've said before, as you see in this case, there's a lot of ugly. You know, I got this beautiful view, but now we're getting more understanding of how they operate. They operate under fear. They use fear and it can be small fear to begin with, and then it gets worse and worse as time goes on. So they use fear. So watch out for the ugly. Please, beautiful people.
Chad, Lori, leave all kids alone. Hey, Chad, Lori, leave all kids alone. All in all, it's just another lie beyond the veil. All in all, it's just another lie beyond the veil. We don't need no cult religion. We don't need Chad's thought control. No dark ratings are upon us. Chad, Lori, leave all kids alone. Hey, Chad. Lori, leave all kids alone. All in all, it's just another lie beyond the veil. All in all, it's just another lie beyond the veil.